Ready to go.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. Today we're working on an Echo Stick Edger. If you've got one of these and you can't get it started after sitting for a while, then today I'll cover everything you need to know to get her back on the truck and back in somebody's yard making money. So all you new people out there, go ahead and subscribe. It's free and it's what we work for. So let's get started. So let's get her apart and see what we've got. Now this is a PE200. It's not the newest one, but from this one clear up to the newest, shiniest one out there, the carburetors and all this whatnot are almost identical. Now I've already drained the fuel on this one, and if you're working on the carburetor or the fuel system in any way on one of these, make sure you loosen the cap or the fuel can kick back up to the lines. I do this all the time, and I still have them kick back on me occasionally. So now we'll pull the air cleaner off. Oh, and this thing had an invisible air filter. Those are my favorite kind. I see those a lot lately. So now we're going to slide that over, and we're going to use a little pointy tool to pull this out. And that'll pop it right out of there. At least it should. There we go. And then this slides right out. So we're pretty much free, save for the fuel lines. And with your fuel lines, you want to see how rubbery they are. If they don't feel real flexible, like the incoming fuel line feels pretty flexible. The outgoing fuel line, I'm not sure about yet. So let's pop them off and then we'll look inside the tank. And if you do this and you accidentally tear up a fuel line, if the fuel lines tear up that easily, then you need to replace them anyway. That fuel line feels like it's got a little bit of rubber still left in it. It's still pretty bouncy, so I'm not too worried about it. So let's look inside the tank and see what the filter and everything look like. So looking inside the tank, it looks pretty clean. Let's see if we can reach in and grab everything. There we go. Now the fuel filter looks like it's got a little time on it, so let's go ahead and replace it. So now I noted the position of the filter in the tank. So we're just going to cut it off because we have enough slack in the fuel line to just simply slide the new filter back in. And this particular filter's got a nice fat taper on it, so I'm not too worried about it popping off later. And again, if you're doing this and the fuel lines crack or break or anything of that sort, then you need to go ahead and replace the fuel lines. That means they would have broken anyway pretty quickly. Okay, that looks like that'll do it. So now, the fun part. A shiny new carburetor for a good old edger. So we're going to feel the return line. Fuel line looks pretty good. Let's see if she fits snug. And it does. It fits pretty snug, so I'm not worried about that one. The return line has expanded a little bit over time. So we're going to do this. And what we're doing is we're cutting the fat part off the end where it's been plugged in for all this time. Grab some pliers and get her shoved on. There we go, a little at a time. And if you get this on and you inadvertently put the lines on backwards, it's just easy to just pop them off and put them back. You know, reverse them. The way you'll know is when you press this, the fuel should go down through this tube. If it's not going down through this tube, then you've definitely got your fuel lines backwards. So the next up, before we do that, let's do the linkage. Slide our linkage back in place. And come on, buddy. This can be a little fidgety, but usually it goes pretty easily. The trick is to get that all lined up and get this to lay on it. So we're going to do that like this. And there we go. And if you hold it accelerated like this, and hold this end down, pull the trigger, and she'll pull it right back in. 99% of the time she'll pop in the first try. There we go. Nope, we may have the screw backwards. So let's turn the screw 180, like so. And do it again. There you go, let's pull the trigger. And as you can see, she's seated right in. And you have to pull the trigger to do it because there's a little shield around the outside of this. Okay, guys, let's get our bolts back in. Get a little bit of fuel in this bad boy and see if she runs. I've got a lot of faith in this. And some fuel. I always joke around and say, let's see if she runs when I'm doing this. But the truth of it is, I give these things a pretty good inspection when I buy them. So I know exactly what's going to be wrong when I put them on the bench. Okay, let's give her a new air filter. Get this all back together. Which way does this lid go? And does it matter? Probably not. Okay, now for the trial by fire. We prime this and see if fuel comes up through the carburetor. And we can see fuel coming up through. Let's just take her over in the middle and give her a run. This is always my favorite part. Now, we don't know how long this thing may have sat. Prime it a little more. Let's make sure she's turned on. We don't know how long it sat, but we're hoping that it isn't all flooded with old gas in the case. Ooh, that sounds promising. That motor sounds really good. So if you've got an Echo weed eater or a stick edger like this one, or any of those long-handled Echo tools, they've got that rotating slide carburetor. Now, if you've got an ultrasonic, then you can take it apart and put new diaphragms and whatnot in it, and she'll work like a champ. But you'd have to clean it in the ultrasonic or it just won't work. There's too many little passages in this style carburetor. So buy a cheap Chinese carburetor, be done with it. They last longer than people say. The trick is, don't let the gas in the machine get old. Once you do that, it'll start eating those carburetors up. So, all you new people out there, go ahead and subscribe. It's free, and if you made it this far, you might as well. So, we'll see you next time.